Hello, welcome to my review for Game Night, the new comedy that just came out and I got to see about 5 days ago. Although I don't know when I'll post this review, but I got to see it a few days before it came out for general release at the Cineworld Unlimited preview screening that they had in the cinema, which was a lot of fun. It was a Monday evening, big crowd, and very receptive to the comedy on display in this film. It stars Jason Bateman and Rachel McAdams as Max and Annie, a married couple who are very competitive and host a weekly game night with some of their friends. It just seemed like it just came out of nowhere. You know, I saw a poster for it, Game Night. Okay, from the creators of Horrible Bosses. Okay, you know, I like the Horrible Bosses movies, particularly the first one. I think the second one was a bit of a step down from the first, but you know, I enjoyed it. It's certainly not a film I feel like going back to, and it's from the co-writers of those movies, John Francis Daley and Jonathan Goldstein, or Goldstein. Is it Berenstain or Berenstein? And they're kind of a co-writing team that worked on Spider-Man Homecoming and a few other films, and they directed this movie. I don't think they wrote this movie. And I was really kind of surprised when I saw Horrible Bosses to see John Francis Daley, because he was the main kid in Freaks and Geeks. I thought, oh, he's still acting. Not realizing that he basically had a cameo in the film, but was actually one of the co-writers anyway. So this film is directed by John Francis Daley and Jonathan Goldstein, and I think they did a great job. But I just wasn't really anticipating this film whatsoever. Had not heard about it, had not seen any trailers. And then I think it came out a couple of weeks ago in America.
Let's have a look at what this idiot did in America.
And a few people were talking about it, saying it was really good. And so I thought, okay, I'll go and see it then. Preview screening, why not? So I went along. And the film just blew me away. I don't really want to go into the plot too much, other than Max's brother, Brooks, comes into town, played by Carl Chandler, who's always great in the very small roles I always seem to see him in movies. He comes along, and he's the more successful older brother, and you know, Max is a little bit intimidated by him and his success and everything, even though he's very happy with his wife, you know, Annie. There's still a bit of a complex there between the two brothers. And so Brooks comes along to one of their game nights, and Annie gets to see up close just how much of a dick Brooks can be with Max, and how this kind of brotherly kind of thing that's kind of bubbling under the surface a little bit is a lot bigger than she imagined and anticipated. So she's kind of on her husband's side now about this, and then Brooks says, hey, why don't we have a game night at my place next time? Because he's just coming to town, you know, he's this high-flying businessman and everything. Yeah, I rented this big house, we'll have a really cool game night. So they all go over to Brooks's rented house, and he literally throws away the board games and says, no, this is going to be a game night like no other. And I won't go any further than that, but it just gets crazy. And at first I thought I knew where it was going. At first I thought, okay, this is going to be like Clue or something, where, you know, it's all going to happen in this rented house, and there's going to be this kind of quasi-murder mystery element to it, a little bit like Clue, but it kind of morphed into something else. And then things started happening elsewhere, and I thought, okay, we're not having that kind of movie. And then it would go, and I'd think, okay, so this is where it's going. And there's a couple of really fun twists in the film that, you know, and I have to say up front that my cinema experience probably really helps my enjoyment of this film, because it was so unexpected as well. It's so fun when you go and see a film and you're just not anticipating it to be as good as it is, and it's a really great cinema experience. Everyone was laughing. I think, like most movies, when you go to see it in the cinema, and it's a comedy at least, and there's laughs, you know, you get that kind of feeling out period at the beginning of the film, where, you know, funny things are happening but people aren't really laughing, you know, and it's like, oh, am I allowed to laugh in this room? Are we all cool here, you know? And then suddenly, you know, something happens, and then someone just can't help it and they just laugh. And then everyone else starts chuckling along with it, and then by, you know, halfway through the film, everyone's on board, everyone is just no filter, you know? And even the credit sequence at the end of this film, people were just roaring with laughter, and I was too, and it was just one of the top 10, I think, best cinema experiences I've ever had. I really wish Connie had been with me. I think it's a great date movie in that sense. And actually I'm going to take her to go and see it next week, hopefully, because I really want her to see it. I want to experience her experiencing it for the first time. I think it's very cleverly written. I love how the comedy doesn't resort to sexual jokes, to, you know, toilet humor. I mean, there's a few sex jokes here and there, but it doesn't go to that well so much. It isn't about, you know, fuck and shit and all this kind of stuff. Again, there's swearing, but it's it really it earns the laughs that it gets. Jesse Plemons plays a cop who lives opposite Max and Annie, and he used to be a part of the game night, but his wife has left him, so he's kind of trying to worm his way in, and he's completely just the most deadpan character ever. Like, I wasn't sure what to make of him at first. I was like, this is weird, you know, but that's kind of the point. And by the end of the film, his character is so funny, and I love the way he just completely committed to that role, and that deadpan kind of just no social intelligence, seemingly, and where it went and where it evolved by the end of the film.
Come on, Gare Bear, live a little, it's the weekend.
We were just saying how you were always better at games than Debbie was.
Well, thank you not to besmirch my ex-wife. That woman is an angel.
Oh, yeah, she was much better at games than you.
I will admit I have eagerly awaited a visit such as this.
Where'd he go?
Do we follow him?
It seems like it.
Ryan, you go first.
I'm scared.
There's maybe one or two moments, you know, where something happens and it didn't ring true for me or something like that, but really, that's just nitpicking. I even love the way this was shot. There's some great kind of use of cinematography, and there's one shot where a lot of things are happening in this one house, and the characters are basically throwing this thing around. They're grabbing it and like running around, going upstairs, downstairs, and it's all done in one shot. You could kind of see where they'd seamed it together, so it wasn't perfectly seamless, but it was fun. I liked the idea and the intention of it, but I also loved the use of tilt shift photography in the film, where it's not just like there's one thing in focus and then the background is out of focus. There's lots of things are out of focus and just one point or a few points are in focus, and it gives this weird kind of miniature feeling to it. The first shot was when we zoom in on the neighborhood where Max and Annie live before the first game night, I believe, and I thought, oh, it's a model. It looks like a game board. That's kind of cool. And I was like, wait, no, this is real. This is actually a real shot. And it happens a few times throughout the film, and it gives you the feeling, which is what the whole film is about, is that the characters are literally playing this big game, you know. So I thought that was such a genius way to use tilt shift to kind of, in the focusing, to make it look like a miniature set, even though it's real in its reality. Really, really cool. And the humor, again, I have to go back to. The actors in the film are all great. They all have their part to play. You know, some of the characters, they're fairly stereotypical or, you know, cliched in that sense. You know, that there's certainly not like tons of depth. But for me, this is one of the best comedies I've seen in years and years. Like, the only thing I can think of is Shaun of the Dead. You know, I mean, Pineapple Express maybe, but I feel like Pineapple Express now wouldn't be anywhere near as funny as it was when I was 20, you know? I feel like this is a great movie for me as a 30-year-old, you know? I feel like it'll age better as well. And again, you know, go back to Pineapple Express, a lot of that is about the more kind of... Again, I'd really appreciate a comedy that makes me laugh without really going to that well of using a lot of language or a lot of kind of sexual humor, which again is funny and there's nothing wrong with that. But I just think it's better earned, as I said earlier, and I appreciate it more. And anyone who knows me well will know that it really takes a lot for me to laugh at a movie. YouTube videos, you know, a cat kind of fails or whatever, I'm roaring, you know. I can laugh a lot at incidental things or things that are a bit more personal, but movies where the goal is to make you laugh, it's hard for me to really get into it and to really laugh. I'd say me laughing out loud in a cinema, you know, like really big, happens maybe once or twice in a really good comedy movie, and it must have happened at least 6 or 7 times in game night. So many things caught me off guard, and that's kind of where the real... And I'm intrigued to see if it holds up as much the second viewing, but for me right now, this is my favourite film of the year. Is it as good as stuff like Phantom Thread or 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri? Hell no. But it's the most fun I've had in a cinema in so much. I mean, Thor Ragnarok was one of those ones, but that's such a different type of movie, and I feel like that's not primarily a comedy, even though it was so infused with humorous elements. But this, it's meant to be a comedy, it is a comedy, it does its job. And for me, again, it's probably one of the best I've seen in the past 10-15 years. All I can really think about as great comedies is this, you know, maybe The World's End, Shaun of the Dead, Pineapple Express. You know, there's a few more that are really good, but this is one where I'll be looking back on it and saying, yeah, that was great, and I loved it from start to finish, and can't wait to see it again. And it's the perfect length as well, not to harp on too much, but, you know, the past 10 years or so, we had that kind of Judd Apatow period where, you know, all of his kind of like Knocked Up and so on, they'd be like two, I think Funny People was like 2+ hours, and it's just like, It's too long for a comedy movie like this. It's meant to be breezy, fun, enjoyable, makes you laugh. And this is like, 90, 100 minutes, perfect length. It really felt paced well. Nothing was dragged out. And so, yeah, for me, it just gets top marks. I just loved everything about it. Was completely blown away by how good it was. Like I said, I'm just repeating the same phrases at this point. But if you haven't seen it, or if you've kind of seen the trailers and gone, looks like go see it. Give it a chance. I don't want to hype it up too much, but that's the way it is. That's how I feel about it. I loved it. Again, my favorite film of the year, I think, so far. And that's about it. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.
It's alright by me. Apart from the fact he throws cans of Carlin into a tree. Yeah, he's really cool. Yeah, he's really cool. But he's not quite as cool as you, 'cause